Hello and welcome to the second tutorial on LibreOffice Base, and in this one we're going to populate our database with some actual data. So the tutorial link should bring you over to the page, and in here you'll see this video at the top. So this is how we're going to make our database look interesting. So I have mine saved in this folder, so I'm going to open that up and have that open off to the side here. And then wait until it loads. Here we go. The first thing we want to do is establish our relationships. So there's a little GIF in the text that kind of shows this process. We have our three tables: artist, album, genre, but of course right now they're empty. There's nothing in them. So I keep loading off to the side. This is irritating. So there's nothing in here yet. So what we have to do is we have to put data in there. But before we can do that, we need to establish our relationship. So this is up in the Tools menu. We go to Relationships. And once again, that has loaded over to the side here. So basically what we want to do is we want to add all three of these. It'll pop up on your screen in the middle of your screen, and it'll look right. So here, so I'll add album, we'll add artists, and we'll add genre. And then I'm going to close this, and then now I'll be able to drag the window in. It wasn't letting me before, so hang on, there it is. So I'll bring this down here and resize it a little bit. So we have our album, so you can kind of like arrange these kind of in a way that looks aesthetically pleasing, especially with the way that we're going to be creating these relationships. Essentially what we want to do is we want every instance of these two fields to reference something in this table or something in this table. See, these little boxes here are just like summaries of the database schema. So we know this is the primary key, we know this is the primary key, we know this is the primary key. And these are supposed to be references to keys in these two tables. So what we do is we want to drag the key from the artist table, artist ID, and drag it on top of artist ID here. And it creates this link. And notice there's a 1 and an N on this link. What that is telling us is this is what's called a one-to-many link, or a one-to-many relationship. To kind of like summarize that idea, basically any album can only have one artist, but each artist can have many albums, or can be referenced in many albums. So this is a one-to-many relationship. Genre ID, pop that up over here. And that's it. That's our relationships. We save that and we close it. So we don't need to look at the relationships anymore. They're established. That is complete as far as that goes. Let's take a look at what else we have. What's next? So we've done our relationships. Now we want to import some data. So in the tutorial page, there's two files, and I'm just going to go ahead and download them. So artist.csv, copy it to my downloads, genre.csv, copy it to my downloads. So I have these two files here. I'm going to open my downloads folder right here. So I have these two. If you have Microsoft Excel installed on your computer, it is entirely possible that the default app that they'll want to load in will be Excel. We don't actually want to do that. We want to load it in, or Sheets if you're using a Chromebook, it's possible. We want to actually load these in the LibreOffice Calc spreadsheet software. This is the only way to actually insert this data the way we want to. So we have the art. Let's start. What is the one? We start with artist in the tutorial, so we'll do that here too. So in order to do that in Windows, you right-click on the file, and then you go Open With, and then you want to open it with LibreOffice. LibreOffice Calc, which is their spreadsheet software, will show you, oh, okay, this is how we've decided this information should be displayed, and for our purposes that's correct, so we'll just hit OK. And then we'll take a look at this, which should look a little bit like Microsoft Excel. It is a spreadsheet app, and we have 107 records in this. So this is like my record collection plus my brother's record collection, so there's actually quite a few artists represented here. I think like the first half of it is mine, and some of it after about here-ish is my brother's. He's got much more eclectic taste in music than I do. So now we want to copy this data into our database table, so into the artists table. So we can't do this. I had to look around a lot to find out how to do this. Basically, what you do is you hit Control A to select everything in the table, and then you hit Control C or Edit Copy to copy the entire contents of the spreadsheet into your system clipboard. Then we pop back over to our database, and we go to the artist table, and then hit right-click on it, and then hit Paste. Don't ask me why it works this way, why they don't have some like dedicated import function. It drives me crazy, but it's the way it is. You can actually define a table based on the data in a particular CSV file, but in our case, we've already defined it in the last tutorial, so all we're going to be doing is appending the data and making sure that this is also checked. Use the first line as column names. So if you'll notice up here, these are the same names that we used for our fields in our table. So yeah, so append data, use first line as column names, hit next. Make sure that these kind of line up. You'll notice that if you highlight one of them, it'll highlight. So this is the source table, and this is the destination table. And if you click on one, it'll highlight the one it's referring to in the next one. So this is why you wanted to make sure that those were labeled correctly when we created the table, because they wanted to be the same as it is in my spreadsheet. So I'll hit create. Looks like nothing happened. But what happens if we open the artist table now? You'll notice that it is now populated with all this information, which is very cool. 106 records. And they're all ID'd, and everything has successfully made it over. So we'll close that. Let's do the same thing with our genres table. So we will find our downloads folder, genre, right-click, open with LibreOffice. Wait till it pops open. Yep, that looks good. We'll hit OK. There it is. We'll hit Control A, Control C to copy, and then go to genres, paste, and yep, append data, use the first line as column names, hit next, and this all looks good. Create. And if we open up the genres table and take a peek inside, there it all is. So perfect, great. Those are all of the musical genres that are represented in our database. Let's bring this back up again. So that's that part. Now we're going to actually do a little bit of light data entry because, you know, you've got to do it in the albums table. So we'll open up the albums table, which is empty. And this is what you'd have to do by hand anyway. And in fact, I did do this all by hand. So we're going to create our, so the album ID is an auto number. So all I have to do is start an album name and start typing these in. Artist ID 1, genre ID 1. Why? I thought I had that set as an auto number. Let's save this and go into our schema here. Edit. Album ID. Oh yeah, there it is. Let's make album ID an auto number and then fix that. So sorry about that, guys. I was supposed to do that before. Yes. Let's open it back up, and now it'll do it automatically. West Side Story, 1963. Some of these are my wife's. She really loves show tunes. Camelot, another show tune, 1960. 2-2. All Eyes on Me. Bonus points if you can, if you know who the artist is on that one. It's Tupac. Yes, I have a Tupac album on vinyl, which is really awesome. It's super fun to listen to on the record player. Oh, I did it wrong. Eagles, Their Greatest Hits, 1976, 4/4. Done. Okay. And it's already saved. All that stuff is in there. We'll just double click this so a little bit of light data entry. It's not that big of a deal, and you kind of got to practice like entering data into there. One thing I will say is you start here and use tab to get to the next field when you're typing it. And that will make your life a lot easier. So then you can keep your hands on the keyboard and let these auto fill in. But make sure if they are not auto filling in, you can go in here, right click on albums, hit edit, and then ensure that your primary key has auto value turned on. So that should be a yes. So now we don't want to do this anymore, so we're going to import all of our data from another CSV file. So we'll save that. I'm going to close all my other calc windows here. We're going to show in folder. There it is. Open with LibreOffice and hit OK. There it is. So there are 186 of these. So Control A. Notice these two columns get a lot more interesting. They have a lot more interesting numbers rather than just 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these get a little bit crazy. So there's lots of interesting information there. Control A, Control C, and then we'll go in here to albums and paste. We're going to append the data, use first line as column names, and hit next. Now this one is interesting because we don't have a column in here for album ID because it's an auto value. It's set to be auto value, which means that it's not going to automatically enter those in. So right now it's assuming that these two are going to line up, which is not right. So what we need to do is we need to move album ID down. So we're going to move that down. Yeah, album name. Release year. Good. This is kind of tricky to do. Yeah, there we go. Genre ID, album ID. So just kind of keep clicking down on these and using these chevrons to bump that thing down so that these things line up correctly. So album name, release date, release year, artist ID, genre ID, and then this one gets nothing because it will automatically generate those values. Now we click create, and nothing happens. But if we open up the table, we'll see. I don't know why it keeps opening on the other screen. There we go. We'll see that it now has a fully populated database. We scroll down, 190 records. Records in the database, in the database sense, and also in the literal sense that they're actually records. Let's take a look at the tutorial. I think that is... Oh yeah, one quick little thing that's kind of fun to do. I probably won't even notice if you don't do this. Let's see here. Close this. And all of our tables are created. Our relationships are established. Let's save it. Here, it's saying it's 24 kilobytes. Here's one thing you can do. If a database gets really large, data gets added, data gets deleted, stuff like that, what happens is the database... So when you delete some data from the database, it pops it out, but it still has like some empty space that it takes up. And so databases get really fragmented the more you keep using them. So a periodic like bookkeeping thing that you should do when you're managing and maintaining a database is to compact the database and squish out all that extra air. Like when you put in the leftovers in a Ziploc bag and you squeeze out all the air and then zip it shut so that it so that it doesn't take up as much space in the fridge or in the freezer. So I got SQL. So tools, we're going to go to SQL because we're going to actually enter an SQL command. And this is kind of fun to do because you feel like a kind of a hacker when you do this. You can actually execute all sorts of commands on the data. You can do everything that we've done today in this box here. You wouldn't want to. It'd be horrible, but you could do it. So we're going to do shutdown compact. All in caps. Now it says it's 24 kilobytes. I don't think we're actually going to gain any new space with it, but execute. We'll see what happens. It's still 24 kilobytes. It did delete the lock file though, which is kind of interesting. Shutdown compact. Basically what it does is it shuts down the SQL server that's running this thing, and then it compacts the database. So if we deleted a bunch of records, then it would have regained some of that lost space. So close that. it has a bigger effect in Microsoft Access. Anyway, that's it for this tutorial. We'll close this. And we have this here. You'll want to upload it in the usual fashion, in the old school way, by dragging and dropping it onto there. Submit. You could use your Google Drive to do it, if you wanted to. If you upload it to Google Drive and then submit it via the Google Drive link or whatever, that will be acceptable as well. But it will only accept a file type ODB, these records.odb. So that's it. We'll see you in the next tutorial, I think.